Hello and welcome back to King of Games Mobile. Today I'm bringing you another review on a Might and Magic Elemental Guardians creature, and that is the Basilisk. Fun fact, there actually is a Basilisk lizard in real life. Doesn't look anything like this though. They sort of remind you of the spit dinosaur from Jurassic Park actually if you Google the image. In fact, I might use one of them for our bookmark. But that's not really relevant. So let's talk about the monster. The Basilisk is a 2-star monster, not too hard to get, but actually, depending on which one you get, they're kind of useful. So let's just start in. The fire one, their first attack is all the same, attacks an enemy. It changes when they evolve, but there's multiple evolutions, and so I'm just going to review the basic monster that you'll get as a starter. So his second skill, attacks an enemy and amplifies their incoming damage by 40% for 1 turn. Attacks an enemy, increasing the attack damage based on own speed and poisons them for 2 turns. Then blinds all enemies for 1 turn. So his skill is okay. The second skill is a single target, so maybe for a boss, or if you're in PvP and your opponent has a particularly annoying monster, you could use that to make it easier to kill him. And then this AoE blind is more important than the poison, really. But you have to remember that it's not guaranteed. It has to go through the calculation of accuracy and resistance, and so it's not guaranteed. I'd rate this monster as about a C, really. I haven't used him too much. I built him a little bit up to a 3 or 4 star, but he's outclassed by other fire monsters. I really wouldn't bother with him. The water basilisk. Let's look at his skills. Attacks an enemy and blinds them for 1 turn. Attacks all enemies and freezes them, crystallizing them in jagged ice for 1 turn. So he's better, actually, than the fire one. I would say he is second or third best. What is great is that area of effect freezing. In this kind of game, the more turns you take versus your enemy, the more likely you are to win. And also, you get an extra cooldown while they're just losing a turn. And then the blinding for 1 enemy, if you're in PvP and your enemy has 1 damage dealer, you can blind it so that it's much less likely to land its attack. And the AI doesn't seem smart enough to factor in debuffs at this point in Arena, so it's something to consider. But he's a decent farmer as well. Obviously, you're going to need to use him where you have an element advantage or element neutral, but overall, he's a decent monster. If you have him, you can build him, you'll use him here and there. The air basilisk. Second skill, attacks an enemy, increasing attack based on own speed, and grants self 50% chance to dodge enemy attacks for 2 turns. So it's interesting. He makes himself slippery, right? So it doesn't really help his team that much, but it makes his chance of taking damage significantly less. Unfortunately, it doesn't really tell you how this works versus your enemy's accuracy. Like, does it factor the accuracy and then 50% chance off of that? It doesn't seem to be from my experience, but, it's not terrible. Now, his third skill his passive rather, is interesting. If attack is critical, steals 70% of their turn bar and poisons them for 2 turns. So essentially, if you build him with a lot of crit and a lot of speed, he can be a turn machine. You attack them, it crits, you steal 75% of their turn bar, then he gets a turn that much faster. You crit him again and again and again. So you're steadily taking away their turns and giving him turns. So that's pretty strong in the right situation. The only downside is it's not area of effect. So you have to factor that in. And also, because he has the passive, he doesn't have another attack. So he only has 1 skill that is not a basic skill, but it has a low cooldown. So it's a trade-off. I'd say he's either second or third best, maybe tied for second with the Water Basilisk. And the final one is the Earth Basilisk. Now, this is a good farming monster. He should have like a tractor and a little hat, some overalls or something. So let's look at his skills. Petrifaction. Attacks an enemy and turns them to stone, encasing them in solid rock for 1 turn. Decreases their resistance for 1 turn. Reusable in 3 turns. So if it lands, it's handy. It basically is like a stun or a sleep for 1 turn. The user loses a turn. It doesn't grant any other negative effects. So, I don't know why they have these different classes. Like, you could just call it all the same thing, just stun or whatever. It's the same outcome. But anyway, it's decent. It has a decent cooldown. And if you have your team speed tuned, if he hits with this first, it decreases the resistance, so then you can stack debuffs on one of your opponent's monsters. And then the third skill, the farming skill. Attacks all enemies and poisons them for 2 turns. Reusable in 5 turns. So I believe the cooldown can be reduced as you skill them up. It takes a lot of magic books, but it's doable. And you can use them to farm some of the scenarios. Mine is not maxed out yet as far as his runes, but he's a decent farmer. I'll just show you him real quick because he's in my opinion the best one. So let's just look at Ice Caves. Like I said, for him you're going to need the element advantage. So I don't know that he can kill the boss stage, but let's just give this one a shot. See how he does. I changed the glyphs recently, and so we'll just have to see. There he is. All right, let's just have him do a run. He should be able to beat it. And if it's not auto, he's not farming. And now that I think about it, I took him off of his lifesteal runes, so he doesn't have the durability that he used to. So that's my fault. I actually need to put his farming runes back on. But I'm kind of cheap. I don't want to pay the money for that right now. Let me just show you the runes he has, so you'll see. He's a damage build right now. I've been using him in Arena. So if you were going to, and yeah, some of the runes aren't that great, but if you're going to use him to farm, just take one of the sets off, or both if you want, and make it lifesteal, and he'll do fine. But anyway, that is my summary of the Basilisks. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. And that's going to be it. We'll see you next time with King of Games Mobile.